Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first virtual presentation here at the gallery at UTA. My name is Benito Huerta. I am director and curator of the gallery. Today, we have Simeen Farhat, who is part of a three-person exhibition that's up right now and will be up through April 3rd. And in that exhibition also features Anili Kayam Aga and Ambreen Butt. And Ambreen will later, in the end of March, will be doing a virtual presentation of her work as well. I also, before we get started, I'd like to thank the following sponsors: Art Bridges Foundation, Arlington Camera, the Art and Art History Department and its students, and Abe Lopez Ortega Studio, who have graciously supported the 2020 and 2021 exhibition season. I do want to note that at the end of this talk that Simeen and I will have, there'll be time for some questions and answers, so please submit them to the YouTube channel chat line. I want to just talk a little bit about Simeen's background, just real briefly. Simeen received her BFA from Arizona State University in Tempe and her MFA from Texas Christian University in Fort Worth. Her work has been collected and exhibited worldwide, including solo exhibitions in England, India, Pakistan, Switzerland, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the UAE. In the United States, she has shown in numerous states and was invited to participate in an exhibition at the 2015 Venice Biennale. And In the Eye of the Thunderstorm, Effervescent Practices from the Arab World, curated by Martina Corgnati. She has also participated in several artist residencies and has been the recipient of numerous awards. She's also represented in Dallas by Chris Worley Gallery. So I will turn this over to Simeen, who will be talking about the work that's in the exhibition. And there you go.
First of all, thank you so much, Benito. You have been such a good mentor, and I know you for such a long time, an artist and colleague and everything. So I'm really excited to be showing, among other wonderful artists, that I'm also from, originally from Pakistan, that I'm also from. A little bit about my work, and by the way, I used to teach here at UT Arlington some time ago, but so it's very exciting to be, now showing at this gallery. So a little bit about my background and my work is I'm very tactile and that kind of a person. When I got my degrees in printmaking, but I knew that there is something else I really want to do. So I had been experimenting a lot, and that's what I do really, because for me art is more about an experience and looking into the unknown beyond that you're not familiar with, and delving into something that you're just doing and you just have an idea, but then you are just waiting for things to happen and see. So a little bit about this body of work that I'm doing, and most of these works, I think the one that Benito has selected for this exhibition, I think the oldest one in this one probably 2015 or 16 up until now, and I'm going to talk about a few of them. So what art is for me, first of all, is art and life, they go together. Sometimes things are difficult and passionate, and it's not that easy, but there is no escape, just like art and life. So for me, it is, I have to create something, do something, otherwise I just don't know, I just feel like I'm missing something. And what it is, how I got into, I think I have this thing always in me to, I was always a very creative person, always very good in drawing and painting and other things related to fine arts. So this body of work is, as you can see, people ask me, what are these? These are about signs and symbols and language, which had been a part of my work for quite a long time. It was some of the inspirations, and I'm going to talk right now briefly, and maybe when I stop at some of the works, I can tell you a little bit more, and then of course we have a Q&A later on. So after I moved here, I think in 1992, right, from my native country, Pakistan, from Karachi, Pakistan. So that's where I'm originally from. And I have been traveling a lot. Right now, of course, not because of the COVID, but I feel that I live in all these cultures simultaneously because I lived in other cultures. And I think my art is very much about, who I am. I don't think my work is about, even if it feels like that, yes, it does have all those cultural connotations, implications, influences, but I still feel that my identity is who I am now. Yes, I'm originally from Pakistan, but I have lived in, and I am still very proud to be from there and being, this multicultural person. So I think that at least I will speak for my art. I don't want my work to be, like pinpoint, oh, it is just the Islamic art or it is this or that. I think art should be universal. It should be understood and, by anybody, regardless of your culture, background, or anything. But that is my take on what I think of my art and what is, what I'm trying to create or make. So I have these words, and I was using language, as I said previously. I've been using signs and symbols, and I was very influenced earlier on by Tower of Babel, how from one language it evolves to many others. I was very inspired by hieroglyphs because I was seeing all those in the exhibitions all across Europe and the United States when I first came here. So I was really going to a lot of different states and visiting. After that, 9/11 happened, and we all go through, especially somebody from my part of the world or something, that experience happened, and we all go through. I'm a naturalized citizen, of course, so the moment I speak and people hear my name, that is politics, right? They hear my accent, that is politics, right there. I carry dual passports, that is politics. So, but what my intention is, of course, that is all there. And there is a lot of politics in my work too, but I just am interested more in what is my art is about than just being it for the political reason, which is fine, and it is there too. So I started using all these words and languages, and I had a lot of influences. The Swiss linguist Saussure, Levi-Strauss, the binaries and all that played a big role in my work. And then I got my degrees in printmaking, and I was very much into texture and layering. And it was in 2007 that this body of work really emerged, and I felt that, oh, I found this niche. And that was language in 3D, and the use of not just any text which was decipherable or political or anything, but it became a little bit more poetic. And one of the things what happened is that my beloved deceased father, who passed away in 2010, around 2007-06, I used to visit, because of both my parents, I used to visit with them because I knew what was going to happen. And my late father had, this fanatic love for one of the most renowned Urdu poets, Ghalib. And he had this compilation of Ghalib's, his poems and everything by his nightstand, which is actually, I have it now at my nightstand. So he used to talk to us like in terms of Ghalib's poetry and him transcending into the next world or whatever is there. So he would always talk to me, and I really got into that. I had this fascination, and it really inspired me because I had a lot of, connection to my father because of that. So with that, I started making these words, and some of the other Urdu poets, I also started using Faiz Ahmed Faiz, who is very much about the freedom of speech. So all that led me into making this body of work, which I was creating. And I started making these words into forms. So here you can see the nature of these texts is, of course, very cursive. And I'm very much inspired by, of course, it is not just the calligraphic aspect, which is, of course, very important, and that just happened by chance. But it is more about the language and the power of poetry and the prose and other things that I was interested in. So I started incorporating those poets, Rumi, of course, one of them, Ghalib, Fez, and at that time I was creating these thought bubbles, and they were representing, and they were combined some with some female body forms. And what they were representing at that time, they were talking about the freedom of speech for women empowerment. So I'm very much interested still in the human form, in the female and male body part. So that keeps on coming back and forth. But I just started, I was very much focused in terms of these word sculptures, text, whatever you may want to call them. And of course, the shape, I'm more interested in the language as shapes and form and line. And another thing is that I started off using the Urdu or the Persian script, which uses nastaliq, which is very cursive. So I initially started with that, but later on I just got into other languages and English, of course. And then I just started creating them. And what it is here that I am treating this, of course, whatever the poetry or poem that I have here, or even a verse, anything, or sometimes even email correspondences, or even just the influence, which I will talk later how that evolved. So I was interested in more as signs and symbols, and the language as just simply shapes. And another thing which is very important in my work is that they are very disarrayed. They are disjumbled, and all these configurations that I do kind of sometimes very chaotic. I don't want my viewers, I don't want the speaker of one language the advantage over the other. And it is like poetry, you know, in poetry you don't want to know the meaning of the poetry, it is the word that you're interested in. So it is more about how you see, and it is visual art. And I'm not a poetess or anything, and I'm not a calligrapher, but I'm just interested in language as shapes and forms. So here, what I do, I even combine, of course, the phrases, they matter to me. I'm very much a formalist person too. The colors matter to me. And for example, in this particular piece, that one of my newest pieces from 2020, and this one here has I think it is 2 different languages. One is Persian. I think I had that poem from Umar Khayyam, and the other one is written by one of my very good friends. So those 2, you know, that I combined together. And this is a new body of work that I'm getting into, which is, as you can see, there are some geometries. And in this particular work, I'm interested in not the cursive form or the line, but and also not just the words that you see here, but I'm also interested the negative of the words. So these lines and all that you see here, the stripes and the negative space, that is kind of like the void, that because it's a negative. So what is it, you know, when you don't have the words? When you don't see those words, what is that? What do we call the negative of words? So that is what I was interested in. And I also feel that sometimes we need some kind of void or something, some negative space to breathe in, you know, away from the crowd and all. So I guess there's a progression, and as we go along, we can talk about how it all evolved.
I have a question. You said that back in 2007, you kind of made this, in a sense, an epiphany about turning something, words, which are usually two-dimensional. They don't have really a form, they're just flat on the page, paper, or whatever. What gave you, I mean, what was the spark that gave you the idea to make them three-dimensional?
Oh, all right, very cool. So here's what happened. The printmaking thing was very two-dimensional. So I was using text as, you know, in prints, I was just printing them. They were just legible or illegible. So I was struggling. I think I was more of a 3D person always, and not to say that I don't like drawing or painting, but something that I guess I just, one of the things that I wanted to create these forms, and one of the, it was a piece called We Won't Kill You and Body Language. And that had to do more with my identity. For example, whether I say it or not, people, you know, would come and ask me, oh, you're from Pakistan, oh, there's women and all that. So there was one installation that I showed at the MAC, I think 2008. So I started working on that. And I just wanted to give, after I was using Ghalib's and Faiz Ahmed Faiz's poems about the empowerment of women, I just wanted to create this forms, which is, I guess, if anybody wants to see that, it's there online, We Won't Kill You. And I made these women kind of garb and something with, you know, there was a void in there too. So they were just talking about some words. So, and basically what it was is that even if you can, you know, like the cliche or something, you can put a woman in a garb or a scarf or a hijab or whatever, but women still, even I myself, that they always have the power to speak. So it was kind of like this kind of a thing that you have the power to think and speak. So even if you enclose them, you put them in whatever, or you want to do it to yourself, your mind is still free to think. And in that piece, that's the first time in that piece, I really wanted to show the thought process and the mind of those women. So even at that time, even those thought process, the speech that was coming out of from that void of this female garb figure, they were kind of representing their mind and their thinking. And those words kind of silent also, like these are, because this is kind of like the thought process. And that's pretty much what they are here to, as thought rather than words spoken.
So it's coming from an abstraction to concept to actual reality.
Yes, and usually all those concepts take me a long time to, you know, I contemplate, I work, and I revisit, and I'm thinking about, so yeah, I just, the thought process first came to my mind that I want to do this, and I want to have these words coming out. So, and I'm all about, I started cutting with using a scroll saw. Now some of them are laser cut or something, and I think some of these are maybe like done by hand. So initially when I started, it was the exhibition at the MAC, it was all hand cut. I mean, imagine long time ago, 13, 14 years ago when I was doing that, so laser was expensive also. So I was just doing it all by hand and cutting them. So that's how they started. Yeah, and very soon I knew, I knew there is something in it that I could, you know, go forward with.
I want to ask you about this piece. For those of you who get our invitations or you've seen the email, this piece is actually on as one of the illustrations on that email. The way it looks now is slightly different from the way it is on that. So, and this is one of the things that I found interesting in the installation was when Simeen was here, it was like, well, how about we do it this way? And it's like, I feel that as a curator, this is the artist's work, and if they want to present it in a different manner, I think that's perfectly fine. So, but I thought it was interesting to see that evolution, that the piece is not static in a sense, it evolves as well.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of these pieces, I mean, this is kind of like a relief. This may not undergo a lot of changes, but this piece, some of my works, so many of my works are modular, and there's a lot of fragility, and that's why I said life and art go together, you know. Even my own work, life is fragile, and my work also is very fragile. So what happens is that, and that is actually a thing that I have to deal with a lot, all the time, that they are not in a frame, they are not anything, and they are very much exposed, and they are shipping, you know, these are like all over the world. And I don't know, once I let it go, I don't know how they are treating, they are my babies. So, you know, somebody adopted, or they went on whatever play date or something with another person. So how those people are treating them, I have no idea. So when it came, but this is one of the pieces that I wanted to have back to me. And I know when I told you, Benito, that these are some of the works. So yeah, it changed, but yeah, I think that's part of the installation, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
It may change. I mean, there's still some of the things out there.
Right.
And in terms of what it is, this piece is, you know, Red had been my muse, maybe it still is. So this particular poem is about, it's called She is Smeared Red. So it's kind of like a poetry, it's all in English, and it's kind of a smear, more like a metaphor, like a smearing something, like a poem, and this is what this piece is, She's Smeared Red. And you know, I was interested, and of course there are like negative, positive, all these different material, and also there is a technique also in this I used, as you can see, you know, so I'm thinking about all these other things too. There's a red here, then there is a sliver of the clear, just to give that kind of line quality. You know, when you see a contour line or something, you see a little bit of light and it gets so...
Right.
So these works are very much like a drawing also, because first, whenever I'm making all this, apart from the fact that it's a poem, whether I ask someone to write me a poem for something or I selected something, they are very much hand-drawn first. And that is also kind of, I'm drawing all these. So I also treat them as drawing, and maybe in 3D or drawing language as drawing. So it is all that goes into this particular piece that I did, She is Smeared Red.
Yeah. Let's move on to this next one.
This is, yes. Okay, one important thing about this piece is that this is called The Black Sleep. And my work is also very much about wordplay, even the titles. And something important about this particular piece is that I wrote the poem myself. And I can maybe read, and what is it? That they were everywhere. At first, I saw them by the kitchen sink, and they were eating everything, even my dead skin, which was not dead, and so forth and so on. So here, this piece is that I started off with all these different kinds of influences, and some other influences that also I've had on my work is Kafka, Franz Kafka, T.S. Eliot, Emily Dickinson, Alice in Wonderland. We will talk about that too. So this one was, you know, the whole poem and everything. It was something that was everywhere. That is what this piece is about. And I washed the next morning, and one night it got into my eye, and the next morning I washed off some black sleep. So I don't know what it was. So, and I keep going back to Kafka, and I really like the ambiguities in Kafka's work. And here, this is what I was trying to, talk about this work. And I think I wrote the poem in 2015, and I made this piece. So this piece is very much about from the poem and how I translated that poem into this. And interestingly, when I look back at 2020 and I see this piece, it's like so interesting. It's like very much about everywhere, and they were getting into me, and I had to squish and kill. And, it's kind of like that thing that whatever feeling that I was having at that time from that thing, that creature, whatever it was. So I wanted to translate that into that kind of bizarre feeling, thinking, without being too literal. And it's called The Black Sleep.
Yeah. Do you write quite often?
I do sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I definitely write my projects. All my whatever I'm doing, most of my projects actually, they happen in written forms, because my idea, and I have to write down my ideas because I keep thinking of so many of them, and I sit on my ideas for years. Like, there are many of them, even this piece, which is the next one, I sit on them because I know I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
Until I come to, okay, yes, that's how I'm going to do it. So there are a lot of other things too. So yeah, this piece is definitely, and I like, it's very intricate, and there's a lot of, I wanted it to be very dark and black, because to get that kind of effect, but whatever it was, I wanted it to be still ambiguous and kind of have that feeling. So this is that piece from that. I would say I do have some periods. Maybe this is my void period. This is my red muse period, and the birds, which I guess another piece I can highlight upon that. And this is also my influences from T.S. Eliot, Kafka, that kind of weird things, bizarre things, like metamorphosis and all. So that's from that.
So we're coming to Simeen's very recent piece. As a matter of fact, it was actually finished here. So while we were installing, we just left her alone, and she completed the piece here. So
yeah, this piece is called Bodies Hither and Thither. Homer, yes. So I was telling you about my influences. Homer and the Greek poets and a lot of those philosophers, so philosophy, language, literature. So I got very interested into Eliot, and I really liked the whole Odysseus and everything, Odyssey. So this particular piece is, there's a lot of things going on in this piece. Okay. Let me think where I should go from. So first of all, it's called Bodies Hither and Thither. This piece has a lot of events before it happened. One of the things, of course, I love the phrase bodies hither and thither, and oftentimes when I'm making art, I am listening to philosophy, and my friends are like, how can you listen to all this while you're working? So I said, even if I grasp the 50% or 25%, I'm still getting something. So I used to listen, and I still do, on Audible or something. And I had all these Homer's Iliad also. I was just kind of like reading it again. And so there is one phrase that says, and the bodies were hither and thither, the bodies hither and thither. And I love that phrase, I love that, because it's all about, so I do like that humorous aspect, in, which I try to maybe influence by Duchamp or something. So this piece, I knew I was going to do a piece, bodies hither and thither. And another thing happened is that I was renting this house, I still live there, and there was a very nice Bradford pear tree that fell, the storm, and the leaves were all over and dried and everything. And I said, oh my God, these leaves are hither and thither like those bodies. So that was, and I really felt sad that tree fell. And so I really wanted to do a piece, and I lately, like I said, I'm getting back into the body parts, like the human body part, because I'm really fascinated by that. So, and I'm treating body as a language as well, just like I have the fragments of these texts. It's like the broken narrative or prose, whatever. So here, the fragments of body parts are also, and so it is. I wouldn't say that it is like Iliad or something, because I feel that Iliad also is life. Because in Iliad you find lust, you like passion, disease, sickness, war, betrayal, all of that. So disrespect or respect, all of these things, right? So, and interestingly, what was also happening when I was making this piece, so that I was also watching, I think they were playing Troy, that movie, and I was making this, and I was watching, I watched the movie, and I was making this piece, and I was like, oh my God, this is like, okay, And here again, this is one of my newer pieces, and I think the void is also going back to, as I mentioned about that piece with the female forms, the words were initially coming out of this void. That is when it first started. So I am interested in, this is like what it is coming out of. It is time and this void in space. So I just wanted to connect it to, Iliad, the time period, how it is still here, thousands of years, like what, 2800, 800 BC or something like that. So I'm just interested in how it is still prevalent and it just coming out of the time. So it's kind of like something that speaks to us from time, from coming out of somewhere. And here I am again treating, what is that, the negative. So here I put together some words and along with the, fragile. So again, this is also the fragility. Even language is fragile,
Right.
Language can be smeared, it can be, it changes, it is manipulated, it is all of that. I say something to you and it becomes a memory, you won't remember everything. Like
or maybe I interpret it differently.
Or different, exactly, or you will, exactly, and that is also why what I am doing, I don't think that my viewers should exactly read the same thing. It's poetry.
Right.
Poetry, everyone, has open to interpretation.
Yeah.
So it is exactly the same things in all my work too. I'm just doing something, maybe my viewers read it completely different than what I am thinking.
What is interesting here is that the plexiglass flat panels, that is like the first one we talked about, to me, it almost feels like it's a window that's broken, and then all of this is, in a sense, kind of spilling out, and not only spilling down, but spilling out onto the floor, which makes it, much more dimensional in a way. Was that initially part of the idea to do that, to just kind of like feels?
Yes, absolutely. And I could have spilled out a little bit more, and I wanted to, but then I was like, okay, maybe, installation, maybe next time I do it. You know what? Okay, you pretty much are saying yes. It's kind of the window or a door, and that particular piece is called Knocking Doors, because I kind of felt it myself too, that this is, I had this initial idea, and then but I wanted it to be kind of like a broken something that, and yes, coming out of something like a window. And another interesting thing that happens is like, I'm working on this idea, and my goddaughter Iman, she's an architecture major, and she came and I was like, Iman, look, I'm making this. She's like, oh my God, wow, I love it. The colors were at that time a little bit like a bone color. She was like, oh, they look like bones, like the human bones. And I was like, I like that. And I was like, okay, some of the texts were like that. So then I wanted to do it a little bit more different, like lighter white, different color. But when she said that, I was like, I like that. So then I was like, okay, I want to make it kind of like the bone color. So I like that, what she said. So that's how, yes. And also this, like your work evolve and changes, and there are references to your other work.
Right.
So this work also is referencing back to one of the pieces I made called Red Spill. And they were like kind of, at that time, the women were spilling, or maybe a box that was spilling some words. Here is kind of changed a little bit. So it is also taking on to something, kind of an evolution, that something, I'm very much into spill and drip and burst and all that. So this is kind of like, yeah, I intended to make it kind of like spilling.
Yeah.
And I want it to be, you know, like language is everywhere, like words are everywhere, so I want them to be in this space.
Well, I think it's interesting because in kind of classical European painting, the painting is thought of as a window. So you're looking through the window and you see the landscape or you see the figures out. And here the window's broken and something dimensional comes out of it.
That's interesting, thank you.
So it's another kind of, you know,
Very
way of
nice.
looking at this.
I like that. Very interesting, yes. Yeah. So I, just like all the modernists, you know, I also broke the window.
Yeah, you broke the window.
Okay, and this red piece. This is actually one of my favorite pieces, and this is also one of a kind and very kind of like a breakthrough, you know, something, because I wanted to go back into the body, human form, because you know, I love the human form and I like to always draw, and you know, I was a good drawer also with human forms, and I taught that too here at UTA Arlington Life Drawing. So this one here, I was making all these pieces, and this is called Mud Words. And here, you know, I had all these different cut out body parts, and this one of course before COVID or anything. But I think here, this one also has kind of got that Iliad thing going on a little bit here, because I wanted to, this one is not just, it's a lot of things here. It could be eroticism here, there is kind of very sexual, it could be death, gore, you know, all those things again that, there's the tongue, there is a cutout finger, there are teeth. So I just was like, okay, I want to make something. And I had some ideas in my mind, but I was more interested in the end result, what is it going to be? Mm-hmm. So I was just playing, and this is also a lot of experimentation with the acrylic and the resin that I use, and then all this shininess and the text and everything. So I just wanted to make a work. This is of course before this. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to combine the language of the body and the language of, you know, the language that we speak. The words and body as language. So this is one of the first pieces I did. I think it was also done 2020, and I think almost a year ago that I made this piece. So this one is definitely, and you know, so I call this Mud Words because it's kind of like muddy, and then there is again the breathing.
Right, it's a bit of a clarity in the way it just
like
drips.
A lot muddled.
Yeah, like I said, a little bit of chaotic. And then it all of a sudden simple.
And then a lot of things, because life is very chaotic.
And you know, you're right with the body parts. When I first saw it, I wasn't really aware of it when I first looking at it until you get closer to the piece.
And I think there were some artists, what is his name? The contemporary of Jasper Johns. I was kind of thinking of Jasper Johns a little bit, because he has done some work with like the
body
form,
parts.
the body parts.
Yeah.
I think he was in the back of my mind somewhere when I was doing this one.
A lot of his early work had some
a lot of his early work. So I think I had that in my mind when, you know, thinking of him. And Duchamp, of course, my favorite, one of my most favorite artists.
This piece, A Bubble That Burst.
This piece, okay, so I was telling you that I have all these periods, you know, there's a bird period too that I will go to, so Iliad and all these. I also had Alice period, and that I call my Wonderland period. okay, because I would find myself in the Wonderland. And like I said, you know, Alice in Wonderland, I mean, who doesn't know about it, right? And it's so universal, and I like that it's kind of from a girl's perspective, but anybody could relate. I think I, for one, and I would speak for, I guess, a lot of women, can relate to Alice, metaphorically. So this is, you know, when she got into the whatever, and into the tunnel and the rabbit hole, and then she experienced all these things, and she was so frustrated. So this is from that period, and from that bubble thing that, I mean, I wanted to create this childlike thing. This playfulness is there, but it is a little bit more serious than that. And this is the Alice bursting, you know, like out of a frustration or something, like a bubble gum. So my point is again here to, you know, the bubble gum, how, and I always love to do that,
right.
You know, burst, and I love that. So I was just trying to capture that burst. More like more as a playful, as from the child's perspective, and from, you know, reading inspired by Alice in Wonderland. That is one of my all-time favorite books, and it really has inspired me immensely. And because I mean, Alice in Wonderland is one of the most famous, all Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. One of the Lewis Carroll. One of the most, you know, book about the sense and nonsense of language. So that was, I was really interested that it all makes sense, but the way the words were, the poetry and what they were talking, I was just so, you know, always get amazed by, you know, the language of Alice in Wonderland. So I think that is what, you know, and my work is kind of like, you know, the nonsense and the battle
right.
of phrases.
The wordplay.
It's a wordplay, and it is also the battle of phrases, you know. They are also kind of go together, but they fight together. They're just like all muddled up. So this piece is my Wonderland piece.
This has a very playful feel, and also the coloration is very different from all the other work. It seems a little bit more delicate. For those of you seeing this in the camera, it actually opens up like a vessel toward me, and so it has an openness about it that I really like. But the coloration and the way the light is hitting it, it just makes it a lot more. It seems like a very delicate piece at the same time, even though it's the same materials you use. It just has this delicacy, but it also has this playfulness, and it feels like it's open, and it is open-ended, and I really like that about it. And this is one of the two pieces in the show that are the more sculptural. In a sense, they're more three-dimensional in their form, which is why it's on a pedestal. So
I made actually, and this again had to reinstall because, you know, where am I going to keep? So at first I think I made a big bubble. I showed at the Dallas Art Fair with Chris, I think a few years ago. Then I made another one, a smaller one, and then I, you know, disassembled that one. And then I did this one for this show, you know, kind of, but I would still call it the same because I kind of put it together. So here, the pink, and pink is some color that I've been using now, but many years ago, like 20 years ago, so I would not think of using pink in my work. It was always like very like ochre and yellow and red and all those very earthy colors. So pink is some color, and this piece has got a lot of fragility, innocence, but also it's like, you know, just wants to like suck you in this thing. So this is and you talked about the light and everything. So, you know, light is also the shadow, you know, that is also, in fact, some of the series that I did a long time ago had to do with my shadows and everything. So they're also kind of, because the shadows add layer, you know, like a poetry. Poetry has so many layers. So sometimes I work with what is work and what is a shadow. I did some pieces.
Well, I think what also makes it different is that the other pieces, the coloration is more opaque. And here it seems like the light, you can almost see through the piece. And I think that's what makes it also different. it's a little bit more transparent than opaque, and that also makes it a little bit more open-ended in that regard.
Yeah. I'm interested in the transparency. That is also like opaqueness and transparency and all that. That is also part of my work. I mean, I have made some of the art. I don't know, you might have seen Artist's Statement or some other ones that has a lot of translucent words. So yeah, it's all, again, I'm very much a formalist person too. I think that whatever, I think, my personal opinion, that a work of art, your artist's statement is your art.
Yeah.
You can write, I can do whatever, whatnot, you know, I can write anything, but this is my artist's statement. What I'm doing, how I'm treating what I'm doing. In my case, my words or shapes, whatever I have. So here is, you know, these are like, you know, different layers and statements. So this is what I think that.
Yeah. Let's walk around the corner to this other piece.
Oh.
I'll go over on this side.
This red, yeah. This is a blood drop, a teardrop. I did some, and this is my Wonderland period. I think, I did not think of it at that time, but now I'm thinking, oh, you know what? These works are kind of like that. And this is a teardrop, you know, when Alice became tall, and then she cried, and then she became small. So when she cried, she shed these gigantic tears. And then she became very small, and now this, her own tears became an ocean for her, in which she had to swim through. So I take all those as metaphors. So this is kind of representing, it's a blood drop, but, you know, and I've done some other installation regarding blood drops and falling and everything, but this is the one before that, Bloodshot is Blood Loved, which is a big installation. So this piece I also did because of, inspired by Alice in Wonderland and the teardrops, and I'm taking all of that as, you know, as metaphors. So the big, you know, how we live in this life, and things happen, and sometimes you have to deal with a lot of things, chaos and other things. So, and of course, again, so I just wanted to, you know, a blood drop is kind of less small, so I wanted to deal with the scale. And because Alice in Wonderland is all about the scales, you know, things tall, big, and that is again an inspiration. So I wanted to take this tiny drop of blood and I wanted to expand, you know, I don't know what is the ratio from this blood to this. So scale again, and not only in this, in a lot of my other works too, again, that also, the proportions, you know, big changing things come from my inspirations from Alice.
So many of you, obviously many of your literary influences are really multicultural. They're just not one thing or the other. They're not even bicultural, it's multicultural.
It's multicultural, that's what I am. You know, if anybody says, oh, you're from, you know, my identity is my becoming identity, because Alice was always becoming. So what I was 30 years ago, yes, the basic traits are still the same, but you know, you live, and there were so many, I still have, for example, I was using Rumi's poetry also, right? And Rumi writes in, you know, his poetry were in Farsi, in Persian. And I can read Persian, and Persian also uses nastaliq. But I could decipher a little bit of words from Rumi, but I could not understand it fully. So for me, at that time, you know, even that also was just some shape which I could read, but not comprehend fully. So that is what I think. So that is, you know, like, and then I use fez, and the thing is, people think that they are, they look, oh, are they English? They look very Arabic, because they don't know Urdu or Persian, but they think it's Arabic, and which is kind of true. It's the Arabic script, except that Arabic uses Kufic and Urdu uses Nastaliq script. So this one here, you know, this is all in English, and some of it I think that I wrote myself too, some of the words in here. So it is, again, you know, like people think it's English, Arabic, and I said, yeah, and they're like, oh, really? Because, you know, so that is also just right there. It's all very multicultural. multicultural thing that, you know, it comes from there. And I'm very much, like I said, I'm very much a process person. I am very much a 3D, and I like to build and structure and do all that. So I'm very much into, you know, making something, and, you know, just what happens with it. So this is, you know, very much into structure and all of that. So I guess this just happened, and this is, and, you know, the shadows and everything, and dripping and dropping, like I said, bursting, dripping, dropping, spilling. These are, many of my artworks titles are like, you know, spill, drip, a twister,
Right.
a gentle breeze, you know, a lot of, and they all have to do with your, you know, emotions, your feelings, like kind of metaphors of all these, how we feel and think.
And being overwhelmed by your emotions sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why you need the void. That's why you need the calm of the breeze. Yeah.
Let's go to the last piece in the exhibition.
This one is called Blue in the Shape of Teal. And again, wordplay is my titles. I just don't think of a title. I think of a title. Sometimes a title comes first, and then I make a work out of it. So this particular work is also my, this is from a bird period, and I love Tom Petty and, you know, learning to fly. I ain't got no wings, and I'm free falling. So Tom Petty is also one of the biggest influence in my work as well. Music, I'm very much into music as well. This particular piece, so talking about cultures, right? So what is representing, it is about a peacock. And I was doing with a peacock, and peacock, I think it's a national bird for India, I think, and in Pakistan. And you know, it's beautiful. It's very exotic, considered exotic with all these colors, blue to teal, right? So this one definitely inspired by a peacock's feather and the color and the dance of the peacock. So because again, I'm into birds and also because of poetry. And this work, what it symbolizes for me, of course, the birds in poetry, for example, are, you know, they fly and perch. They perch. Language also flies and perches, and you know, maybe on a book, on a computer screen, anywhere as a text message. So, and what they are referencing here is that the bird's wings give them the ability to fly. And here, my thought process, you know, these are, I treat those feathers and wings as these, my thought, my thinking, my freedom of speech. For me they give me that sense of liberation, that I can do this and I can have my, you know, sense of flying. Of course, we fly in the airplane, of course, everyone does. But, you know, kind of as a metaphor that I am this free thinker, I can do all this and I can talk about my, whatever, express my thought process that I have. So blue to teal, and I made another installation like that. So this is, but the colors are definitely coming from, and then there is a gradation also. You know, I teach design, and like analogous color, you would call it, like from blue to becoming this green, but it is referencing to like peacock and blue in the shape of teal, because teal is that peacock color, and I love these colors. These are, and oftentimes I very much get into like in the colors, like I'm making a red, I'm making a lot of reds, I'm into that red, you know, zone, or my red period, then I will have this blue teal period or black period or something. So, and here, okay, and another thing, so there are lots of references, and then another thing I was also thinking of, mark making. You know, like I said, these words are also like the drawings. So here it's kind of like, you know, this sweepy thing, and this color was also, I was thinking of ink, you know, the color of ink, and you do something, it spills and all. So, you know, it's difficult for me to just say, oh yeah, this is the one thing. You know, there are a lot of things that are happening.
Well, it kind of makes sense because some of the script looks like it's just like being flung.
Yeah.
Or looks also could the idea that it's trying to fly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just flight.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, Brancusi, flight. That's one of my favorite pieces. And like you're asking me, so for example, I'm even thinking of Brancusi's flight, just a simple thing.
Right.
And I'm thinking of these, yes, it is like that. And again, I want some, the shadows, when there's translucent, then they create this kind of shadow there that becomes part of the work. And then some negative, so there's a lot of cluster, and then, you need some room to breathe because, we live in crowded spaces. And then right now we all live in a void, right? Because of the COVID.
Right, yes.
And now we want to be like cluster,
Yeah.
but hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's move back to the chairs and see if we have any questions.
I don't know what time it is, but.
I don't know either. It's, it's almost, it's about 1:25. So we don't have much time, but.
Much time.
While I'm looking for questions, would you talk a little bit about your commission that you just received?
Oh.
So while I look up, see if we have any questions.
Yes, I received actually 2 commissions recently, and I was very excited about those because they came to my gallery, Chris Worley, and I hope she's, if she's watching my talk right now, seeing it. One of the commissions is the Parish Episcopal School, and that was a fountain, memorial fountain for a girl that passed away by accident. So I'm making a piece there, and it's called The Butterfly Effect. And the other one is also at the Dallas Records building. Those 2 pieces I'm very excited about. I feel that, okay, I am this person coming from a different country, having an accent and everything, but I am becoming part of where I have been for the last 23 years. So I really enjoy that, and I'm really feeling that, okay, I'm going to be part of the history for Dallas that I've been living. So that is a very, sense of belonging feeling. And I do feel now that Dallas is my home. I had Karachi, this is my adopted home for, I've been living here. I moved to New York for a little bit, but I came back here because I really appreciated Dallas after I moved to New York and having a studio in Bushwick, and that was so I was like, okay, I can always fly back, but this is a good place also to have that space and the ability to work freely and move around. So.
Well, we didn't get many questions. We got a lot of congratulations. This is great for you. This is wonderful. Beautiful words and poetry. So you'll be looking forward to reading some of that.
Okay.
So a lot of good, positive words coming from our audience. One of the things that you're talking about that is represented in 2 of the pieces is the physical body form being kind of intertwined with the language, and that's kind of a bit of a progression now. How would you see your work in about 5 years from now? I mean, where would you like to see it go?
Yeah, I don't stick to one place for too long. What I've seen as my own work, I do it for 5 years or a decade, and then I move on. One thing definitely is also happening to me. I have really abused my hand, this right hand, because I was drilling, putting in screws and putting the things with the plier. So, and I'm getting older, of course, not younger, unless I make a lot of money and have tons of assistants. So that is also something I have to think about, like how much this physical labor am I going to continue doing? Because most of these pieces that you see, I pretty much did on my own. Myself.
Well, it's a lot of labor-intensive work.
It's very. In fact, many people think that they think it's some men that did this work and not me.
Some men,
like a guy did that, and not a woman. So, I guess. But I'm definitely. I'm getting into. I love to draw always, and I'm doing the drawing. but I think I'm getting into more, it's just evolving. I don't have a plan right now,
Yeah.
but those are some of the things. And of
So-
course, I don't want people to see, okay, this is the work and I continue doing
Right.
that. I'm going to
So you're improvising and evolving and moving. and
evolving, and who knows, maybe language will, I mean, text has been part of
Yeah.
my work for a long time. It has kind of become, people say, oh, it's your signature
Right.
thing, we recognize you because of
Yeah.
that. But of course, it is not all about recognition. I don't make art for recognition.
Yeah.
Everyone wants that, but I really, really do what feels true to me, because
Yeah.
I think I'm very candid and honest. I don't want to jump into the bandwagon that, oh, it's trendy or anything, I should do that too. I just do what comes very naturally to me. Even the calligraphic aspect in my work came very naturally. I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't doing it. I just thought, oh, okay, how about this?
So it's a
And
very
just
natural progression kind of
very
thing.
natural progression, because I honestly am not even a calligrapher. So really, I just like that form, and I just like, okay, that's interesting. So going back to your questions, of course, I'm interested in the space. I'm interested in very much the material, what other possibilities. I am all for possibilities. The endless possibilities as an artist. So I think myself more, I am very much into, I think there are some things that I know I'm very much interested in. I am definitely interested in incorporating the body as language. And I have been working a little bit of that. So we'll see how that goes. Because for me, ideas take forever. But I'm very much into organs.
Yes, I can see
like
that.
you saw
Yeah.
that, right? My lips are sealed and
Yeah.
everything, the organ part and erogenous part and everything, body parts. I'm very much as language.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that takes me and where.
Right.
So.
There was one question which I'll probably end with, is somebody wanted to know, as a younger artist, who were the artists that you were looking at that were influential when you were starting out?
Oh, when I was starting out. Some of the favorite artists that I was starting out, definitely Van Gogh. Van Gogh, the post-impressionist. Van Gogh actually is a very big influence, because I think I kind of feel that my work has that kind of, I don't know, some of them did have that expression things. So Van Gogh was one of them. Then I also liked Janine Antony. I liked her work a lot. I liked Duchamp is one of my favorites. Some other minimalists like Eva Hesse, I liked her work too. And Anna Mendieta is a very good, artist that I really, really like. I'm thinking which other ones. And then I also loved Paul Klee. I like the Cubist. Matisse is also one inspiration, because you can see I'm very much also into colors. So, and then the list, I guess, just goes on.
Wow.
But my most favorite artist, even to this day, is Duchamp, because I thought that the way he just created, I think he was very smart, very intelligent, very witty. And what he did with the urinal, I mean, I love that, what he did. And the way he was kind of refuting that, Armat and, the pseudonym and everything. I love that piece. So I really like Duchamp's humor. And there are some other, Joseph Cassoute, 1 and 3 chair, very conceptual with language. So a lot of those, like sometimes I go blank.
Yeah, but like Duchamp, there was a lot of wordplay in his work. So
exactly.
So language is
languages, yeah, Duchamp, and the wittiness. I think I really liked his humor and wit and the wordplay that, the bride stripped bare even by her bachelor or something. And then, so, and then how he was, his language also, how he was using, although that was his, the artistic language, how he was using the bottle rack, the bicycle wheel, kind of absurdity, which is also, I want, this to be like absurd and not making sense, and maybe just a familiarity, but not making sense of. And that's why Alice and all these other people come into play, that, you know, it's making sense, but it's not making sense. So the battle of phrases and the logical and illogical thinking there. So that's what it is there.
Well, I think we're going to end on that note. I do want to say that the exhibition is going to be up to April 3rd. I hope you can come by and see the exhibition. We'll also be working on a virtual exhibition of the actual exhibition that will be up even after this exhibition comes down. Our next virtual presentation will be James Cohen from James Cohen Gallery in New York, who represents Bill Viola. And the work that we have in the show is Mount Rainier, which was made in 1979. We're right now having some technical difficulties with the piece, so we hope that'll be up and running in the next few days. But his talk is Tuesday, March 9th at 12:30, and after that, Ambreen Butt, who's in this exhibition, I think it's at the end of March, I think it might be March 31st, and at 12:30 at the same time. So I hope you come back and join us virtually, and if you can, come by and visit us physically in the gallery. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.